So I'm almost done with my Super Mario 64 Let's Play, and just like I did with Pokemon, I'm going to be doing a review after I finish it. And in preparation for that review, I started doing some research. And in doing that little bit of research, I came across some reviews of Super Mario 64, just like I came across some reviews of COD 3 over a year ago. And there were some interesting things that I saw in those reviews that I felt I needed to make a video about. This is kind of a companion piece to the COD 3 video, so buckle in, ladies and gentlemen, buckle in. I'm going to be going over several reviews, and I'm going to be jumping in between one and another, so bear with me. The first one is a 3-star review. It was the first 3-star review when you hit all reviews. It's kind of funny. I won't read the whole thing, but I'll read a little bit of it. Yeah, you saw that right. 3 stars. Shocking, I know. I'm currently 100% this game on 3D All-Stars. Okay. I don't have a nostalgia for this game, so this is a 100% honest and unbiased review. Just because you don't have nostalgia or something doesn't mean you're 100% honest or unbiased, or even 50% honest or unbiased, or honest and unbiased in any percentile. Not having nostalgia for something doesn't mean you can't lie. And not having nostalgia doesn't mean you can't be biased in any way. Maybe you really wanted to play this game as a kid, but your friend Jimmy punched you in the teeth that one day because he wanted to play too, and then your teeth fell out and you had to go to the dentist and you had a really bad day and it was all over Super Mario 64. So maybe you just don't like Super Mario 64 because of that. You don't have any nostalgic memories, but you still have biases there. So I know it's a nitpick, but this not having nostalgia doesn't mean that you are objective truth man. First, the good things. Super Mario 64 has a very simple yet amazing story. Okay, this really bugs me. I don't understand the need to concentrate on a game's story for every game. This is something that we saw in the COD 3 review where the guy is saying that the characters were underdeveloped, and I don't even remember because it was over a year ago, but stuff like that. The story wasn't detailed enough or whatever. This is a 3D platforming game. This is one of the first 3D platforming games. This is arguably the first good one, or the first really good one. What's the point of like focusing on the story at all? You know what? This is the worst part of it. Is that's a very simple yet amazing story. You know what the story is? The story is Peach is captured, Mario saves her. That's it. That's all that happens. There's no story. That's like a plot. That's not even a plot synopsis. That's a plot outline. That's not even an outline. That's less than an outline. What's the need to bring up the story? And I'm not saying like this guy can't appreciate a good story, but the fact that he needs to bring it up in his review shoots a spotlight on this huge problem in gaming where everything needs to have a story for some asinine reason. What's the story of Pac-Man? What's Pac-Man's story there? Do you hate Pac-Man? What's the story of Miss Pac-Man? You eat the balls. That sounded funny. You eat the pellets. Is it a bad game because the story's non-existent? No. Jumping to another review. Plays well, but the camera is very laggy. This person doesn't know what the word laggy means. The camera is very responsive. You press the buttons, and the camera moves. So, this person doesn't know what laggy means. The camera is very laggy and only works when it wants to. And this game gives me anxiety. I'm guessing this person was born after 9/11. Because people who are born after 9/11 usually say stuff like, this video game gives me anxiety. Maybe they were born during 9/11 or slightly before. Anyways, everything is so empty and there's hardly any characters there except enemies. What kind of characters do you want to see in a 3D platforming game that isn't the main character? Again, this is very reminiscent of the character development in this FPS game is not sufficient. It needs more. I need the backstory on every character. And this is just a huge problem again in gaming. Not every game needs a story. Not every game needs... Do you need a story in puzzle games? Like, come on. Come on. If you're in an RPG, I can see why you'd want a story there. Obviously. Because, you know, it makes the world feel a little more rich. But this is a 3D platformer. Come on. Again, going back to COD 3, why do we need a story in a COD game? You don't. And yeah, there are 3D platformers that have more characters. Like, for example, Crash. Like, in the third one, his sister's there. And Aku Aku. Stuff like that. But it's not necessary. It can help, but it's not necessary. And also, if it's not done well, it's just kind of distracting, which would be worse than not having one. So the whole story thing really bugs me in particular because in high school I took several video game classes, and in one of them the teacher was not good at his job. To make a long story short, he had us write out a story for the video game that we were eventually going to make, all the characters, the genre, stuff like that. And when it came time to make the game, he clearly didn't really care how it came out as long as it looked pretty and we had the story written down so we can go, here's the story, it looks pretty. But he didn't really care about how it played. He also didn't really know how to make one himself, so he couldn't teach us, so he just pretty much said, figure it out for yourself. He taught us how to move a character from left to right and to jump on platforms. And that was about it. So I decided to just not implement any of the stuff we had written down and just make a game that was just a platformer, a very simple platformer. Out of spite, because I was so pissed off. I named the character John D after John D. Carmack, who has this amazing quote about stories in video games that I don't 100% agree on, to be completely honest, but I think is very, very powerful quote nowadays. I put that quote on the credits of the game just as like an FU to the teacher because F that dude, he sucked. So I think I'm a little more sensitive than others when people bring up the stories in games that really don't need it. But that's not to say that games can't have stories or that stories in games can't be great. Have you ever played the intro to the second God of War game? My gag. Mind blown as a child. That thing was amazing. The narration was great. The cutscene was very impressive. The dialogue wasn't completely crappy. The gameplay complemented all that stuff really well. You're a god and you feel like one. And eventually, you get your powers taken away from you, and you feel like a puny mortal again. And you get motivated to go get back revenge towards the gods. It's really well made, and it melds, the elements all meld really well together to make one cohesive experience.
You will pay for this, Zeus. Be certain of that.
I don't necessarily dislike stories in games, but I dislike just the throw a story into every game just for having a story's sake into the games. I'm also against people talking about them when they're critiquing games where the story doesn't play any role at all, like in Super Mario 64. Now those were Mario reviews. Here's one for Crash Bandicoot, which is very similar. I say this game is horrible. There doesn't seem to be any story to it, and it's very repetitive. Level after level after level. And it's not even a big game. Again, why do you need a story for Crash Bandicoot? You walk and you spin around, you look at his butt. You jump on platforms, you save your maybe girlfriend. You beat the game. Why do you need a story? You don't need one. Okay, this is a very NPC way of looking at things. You think, oh, good games have stories, therefore any game that doesn't have a big emphasis on story is bad. Which is stupid. But anyways, we're not just looking at story stuff, we're also looking at other terms that people don't know what they mean and they just repeat ad nauseum. Ad nauseum. Going back to the first review, let's skip to the middle. Second, the camera in the game is extremely outdated, which is objectively true. Sometimes I can't see where I'm going because of the camera, and several deaths have been caused because of it alone. It feels very janky and unfinished too. Again, with the unfinished, people don't know what that means. People just say it because other people say it. What does unfinished mean? It means it feels like there still needs to be more work done to it. The camera doesn't feel unfinished. He said it previously. He said it here himself. Extremely outdated. That's what it feels like. It feels extremely outdated. It doesn't feel like a beta, you know. It's just a bad camera because it's old. But it doesn't feel unfinished. People just throw these words out because it does feel janky, though. It does kind of feel janky at some points. But unfinished? No! You don't even know what that means. Also, in several of the reviews, people mentioned the fact that there's a huge depth. This guy says depth, but I think he means depth perception, which makes it harder to land on platforms. I've never heard that criticism before of this game, and I don't really know how to counteract that. Other than saying that you're wrong, because it's not hard to tell where you're gonna land. I don't know. Did like some obscurely bigger YouTube make a video about this game and said that and people are just repeating it? Because I kind of feel like that's what's going on. Because I had never heard that problem before. Here's another review. This game, after 20 plus years, may now just feel like a 3D test level as opposed to a real game design now. Which, I mean, he's not wrong, but for the time he's wrong. So like if you release Super Mario 64 nowadays, people would be like, why is there nothing here? Like this is very empty compared to the games that are released now. But for the time though, it didn't feel like that. So but then he says this, which was hilarious. The game just feels barren compared to OOT or Banjo-Kazooie. Now when I first read this, I was like, what the fuck is OOT? What is OOT? And then I wait, could he possibly mean? Of course he does. He means Ocarina of Time, which is hilarious because if you know anything about Ocarina, if you ever played Ocarina of Time or seen any review online of Ocarina of Time or even any Let's Play of Ocarina of Time on the internet, then you're already like, I know where this is going. Do I even need to say anything? Do I? Really? Like, come on. It's like one of the biggest criticisms towards that game. I don't need to say anything. I'll put some footage up on screen for those of you who don't know that game exists, apparently. But come on. Barren compared to Ocarina of Time. Okay. Banjo-Kazooie, on the other hand, well, Banjo-Kazooie did come out a few years after Super Mario 64, and I've only played it a handful of times. I've never beaten it. But I do feel like there's more stuff in each level compared to Super Mario 64. But I'm not sure because I haven't played it in a long time. But I think that is true. Alright, let's move on to the next buzzword of the day, nostalgia. Super Mario 64 was a huge achievement for its time, making every great 3D Mario game possible. However, almost 30 years later, it doesn't hold up. Unless you have a load of nostalgia for this game, it's pretty subpar, sadly. We'll get to that in a second. If you want a classic, try Yoshi's Island, Super Mario World, or Super Mario Bros. 3. Well, I'm not nostalgic for this game in any. I respect that is started 3D games. What? Am I reading this correctly? Am I stupid? I respect that is started 3D games, but honestly, okay, I did read that correctly. But honestly, I really hated this game. Mario Control is so sensitive. And we can just jump ahead of here. So, do people think this is like the first 3D game ever? Because it wasn't. There was a few games before this game came out. I mean, Crash Bandicoot was being developed alongside this game at one point. This game came out first, but only by a few months. It came out the same year. So maybe he means 3D Mario games. But I feel like he thinks this is the first 3D game. Most people who love this game have those rose-tinted nostalgia glasses because they played it as a kid. Again, I respect it, but I hate it. Now we're going to address that point in 1 second. We're going to move on to the next one. I don't get why people love this game so much and consider it the best Mario game. ... No! The best game of all time. Yeah, this isn't the best game of all time, and I wouldn't call this the best Mario game, honestly. Oh, wait, I know the reason why it's so overrated. Nostalgia. Alright, so those are all the reviews that mention the word nostalgia in it. And that's another buzzword. People don't know what nostalgia is. They think, oh, it's old. You like it. Nostalgia. No. Now I'm not gonna sit here and pretend that people can't feel nostalgic towards Mario 64. You know, if they play when they're 4 years old and then play when they're 19, they might go, "Ooh, I vaguely remember this. I remember this feeling. Ooh, I feel a little nostalgia, and this feels pretty good." But no, that's not the only reason why people like this game. That's stupid. There's people who didn't play this game as a kid or play it when they're a bit older, and they love this game. I played this game. Last time I played this game was at the start of college. I'd been only like less than 4 months into college, and I was playing with my cousins. And then before then, I 100%ed it at the end of high school. And before then, I don't remember. But I've been playing this game regularly, and I freaking love it. You know what game I like because of nostalgia? The first Harry Potter game for the PC. That game isn't very good, but I like it because I played it as a child and I get that feeling of nostalgia. I played it again a few months ago for the first time in probably over like 12 years or something, or maybe even more. And It's a very simple game. I beat it in one sitting. It's not very complex. It's very basic. I don't think I could recommend it to anybody ever at all, unless you're a small child. But I still like it because of nostalgia. Now that's genuine nostalgia, not just, oh, this game is old, you like it, therefore you must feel nostalgia for it. So that's just another buzzword that gets thrown out there all the time, which is stupid. It's kind of hard to tell when somebody actually feels nostalgic for something without them actually telling you, but don't just assume, oh, this game's old and I don't like it, and you do. You're older. You must have played it as a kid. That's the only reason why you like it. You can't assume that, though. Because again, I mentioned this in the Pokemon review. Or did I? Maybe I didn't mention this in the Pokemon review. But a lot of people used to say the only reason why you're going to like Gen 1 is if you played it as a child and you feel some sort of nostalgia for it. I played it as like a 13 or 14-year-old and I liked it, so nope. Nope. Some of the reviews are funny, but I'm not going to mention them. I was planning on doing it. I'm not going to because some of the things they bring up, I'm going to bring up in my Mario 64 review. So it wouldn't really make sense to me bringing it up now instead of then. But I will end off with this one. It's a good game, but it's personalized. Oh, here's another weird thing. People don't know what an N64 is, apparently. Like, in a few reviews, like here's this one. This guy says, I mean, my life was mostly based on the NES. I was born in 2009. And then he goes on to talk about how he would play Super Mario 64 on his NES. And then this guy's like, where do you play Super Mario 64? Exclamation points, question marks. NES? Nintendo 6? Nintendo Switch? 3DS? Do people not know what an NES is anymore? Do I have to give a little history lesson on what the NES is and how it's not an N64? Are we regressing back to the good old days where we just call video games Nintendo? Alright, so the NES stands for Nintendo Entertainment System, which was the American equivalent to the Famicom in Japan. Then the Super NES came out, or the Super Nintendo came out. The Super Famicom in Japan. And then the Nintendo 64 came out. And on that console, you could play Mario 64. Why? How does that confusion... I don't understand. How can you confuse? You can look up NES. You can look at a controller and see there's no joystick on it. Or I would play Super Mario 64. I don't understand. Does he just think, oh yeah, and I completely forgot about this. He calls Charles Martinet Charles Brunette. At least I think he's referring to Charles Martinet. Charles Brunette made the greatest decision to make a video game character that everybody would like. He didn't. Okay, I forgot that he said it like that. Charles Martinet did not make Super Mario. I don't understand. How can you confuse the Nintendo 64 for an NES? When did this trend of not knowing what an NES started? Where do you play Super Mario 64? NES? Nintendo Switch? 3DS? I mean, yes, you could play it on the Nintendo. You can play it on the Nintendo Switch. Nintendo. I mean, you can, yeah. All right, so that's the end of the video. Don't bring up story in video games that don't need it to be brought up. Don't just throw the word nostalgia out there willy-nilly. It's stupid. And I don't even remember what the third point was at this point because I'm still laughing at Nintendo Switch. don't call your Nintendo 64 an NES because it's not. We also have this gem of a review. If there are any serious Nintendo fans, then breaking news. This game is the hardest of all Mario games. What? And we're gonna end this video with this one. Sometimes I love to play video games. 2-star review. I agree.